Welcome. Hi, TC. Hi, Sam. Welcome to Wave Archive for this poetry reading sponsored by Poetry Center and POG. Thank you all for being here. It's so wonderful to see the room completely filled up, and it also helps out because now we can be warm. I was scared it would be cold. Yes, welcome again to our reading with Sam Ace, TC Tolbert, and Aria Pahari. I'm John Malillo. This is my space as well. I am a member of the POG board, a poetry organizing group that's been doing work since 1996. So 1 year away from the 30th anniversary. We're bringing avant-garde, experimental, out, whatever you want to call it, work to Tucson in a variety of arts, but primarily poetry. So thank you all for being here. I also want to send out a special thanks to Poetry Center for helping co-sponsor and helping bring Sam here. Thank you so much for helping make tonight happen. And thanks too to Poetry Center for supporting POG's work all year. POG has a season that lasts from September to May, and if you look at the table over there where Cynthia's sitting, you can see the rest of our schedule. But our next event will be in this room again on February 15th with Lisa Periale Martin, who's sitting right there and a member of the POG board, Eric Sheffield, and Simmons Bunton. Other thanks go to Chax Press, UA English, Arizona Quarterly, the Arizona Council for the Arts, all of whom have helped support what we're doing. And of course, thanks to all of you for being here. Thanks for your donations supporting poetry. We also have a website, POG Arts Tucson. If you'd like to make a donation and support us throughout the year, please go there and you can find out what to do. You can also find out more of the schedule coming up. I think those are things that I need to say initially here. All the thanks. I'm just so excited. Thank you all. There's two things that we do at every POG reading. The first is I'd like for every POG board member to raise their hand, and they're the ones to talk to. If for any reason you don't have a pleasurable evening or a good night, talk to them, talk to us. And last, before I introduce the introducers, or say who the introducers are, I'd just like for us all to take a moment and maybe take some breaths. I know that when I'm up here, I certainly start getting that short breath, nervousness. I've been doing this for years and yet still. But I just want us to sort of take a moment and take a breath and think about this place, this particular land, the people who have been here, the people who still are here. We know that this is the traditional lands of the Tohono O'odham and the Pasquayaki, but this has been and continues to be home to many peoples. And I hope that in thinking about this land, we can think about the history here, which of course is a violent one, but also sometimes, often, there's a counter history that we don't tell, right? Which is one of love, of friendship, right? Of hospitality and of solidarity. Woo-hoo. And I just want us to think on that. Thank you all for being here for such solidarity tonight, for poetry. Thank you. So we're going to introduce, everybody's going to introduce everybody all at once, so we'll get them all done at the beginning here. POG board member Paula Valenzuela will be introducing Aria, and Aria will be introducing TC. Thanks, Aria. And Johanna, another POG board member, will be introducing Sam. So I don't know if you all want to come up here. It's kind of small, but anyway, or maybe Paula wants to go first, but we'll do it that way. Thank you all for being here.
Hi everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I know that tonight is going to be a really special reading, so thank you for being here. I love all the poets that are here today, and I suspect that they're also some of Tucson's favorite poets, so we're really excited. But I'm especially excited to be introducing my very good friend, Aria Pahari. Aria is a Nepali-American poet born and raised in Virginia who received her MFA here at the U of A. She's an Aries sun, a Pisces moon, and a Scorpio rising. If you know, you know. And if you don't know, it just means that Aria is the perfect blend of mysterious, badass, witchy, sweetheart vibes. So that's what you're going to be getting of. In my time knowing Aria, she's really challenged my idea of friendship, of womanhood, my concept of love. And her poetry does a lot of that same work. Her poetry touches on concept of intimacy through registers of sexuality, femininity, the matrilineal, animals, sisterhood, and touch. I'm so excited for you guys to all meet Aria, and I know that one day we're all going to have her book on her shelves, and when that happens, you can say, I heard her at the POG reading first. So,
thank you, Paula. That was the best surprise intro ever. Love and appreciate you so much. I'm very excited to be introducing Tucson's beloved T.C. Tolbert. T.C. Tolbert is a trans and genderqueer monkey goat who never ceases to experience a simultaneous grief and deep love every time he pays attention to the world. He writes poems, works with wood, learns, teaches, and wanders. In 2019, TC was awarded an Academy of American Poets Laureate Fellowship for work with trans, non-binary, and queer folks. Publications include Jephromania from Ashata Press in 2014, that's been re-released by Nightboat Books more recently, and TC also has 5 additional chapbooks. TC is also co-editor along with Trace Peterson of Troubling the Line, Trans and Genderqueer Poetry and Poetics from Nightboat Books. TC most recently is the author of The Quiet Practices, winner of the 2023 Chad Walsh Chapbook Series from Beloit Poetry Journal. And yeah, I'm just so excited to hear TC read tonight. And TC was one of the first people I met in Tucson. I was a first semester MFA student, and I beelined to TC at a reading because I knew TC through Sam. And I'm pretty sure I low-key emotionally dumped on TC because I was stressed, and it was my first semester in Tucson, and everything felt so new and overwhelming. But TC's presence, as we all know, is so warm and inviting, and it just feels super right that we're all here together and get to hear TC's amazing work. So, give it up for Sam.
Thank you. So I have the joy of introducing Sam, and I want to start by saying thank you to Sam for his beautiful book and for returning and bringing it to us with his own hands, his own voice here to Tucson, to this archive, the Wave Archive, which I really think could not be a more fitting place for the launch of a work whose formal structure I think might best be described as a wave. Like a wave, the book employs repetition and variation. It can lull you into believing it's familiar, and then just as swiftly deal a powerful reminder that though deeply and materially connected to familiar language and the experience of either or both the reader and the speaker, each instance of it, each phrase exists uniquely, one time and one time only. The phrases alternately lap or crash over you. you. It is an address, a rare opportunity for listening, and with each new start, another opportunity for listening more deeply and again. So that after a while, it ceases to even feel like an act of listening, more instead like an act of creation, the creation of a shared confession, which is another way of saying, I think, or of starting to say, the creation of a new form of writing and reading. So to find, as I read this work for the first time, some recognizable traces of my own life and the beginnings of my daughter's life felt miraculous. Because even as the work touches on very real moments that are particular to Sam and to others, there's something vast and oceanic about the work as a whole. So to find and recognize your friends, your family, your own self in the midst and in relation to that whole feels special. But at the same time, it's an experience I trust that everyone here, regardless of their proximity to the lived details of the work, will share. So Sam was one of the first friends that we made in Tucson that felt like family. And if you've had luck to spend time with him, as many of you in this room have, I'm sure that you won't be surprised by this. It was for this reason that when our daughter Olive was born 10 and a half years ago, we asked Sam if he would be her godfather. And I'm so grateful for that now, especially as there's a geographical distance between us. So. I was honored that Sam not only asked me to introduce his book, but that he also suggested that both Olive and I share a little of our own work tonight. So I thought what I would share is a very short poem that I wrote in another place besides Tucson that's dear to Sam and Olive and I. And the poem is an ekphrastic poem dedicated, of course, to a wave painting. It's titled Surf One, and it was written in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, and also incidentally is included in the POG chapbook that Chax Press made. So a little aside is that I've recently discovered the work of a Tucson-based artist, goes by Weaver. Anybody? Yes, you know Weaver? Yeah. Amazing. This incredible work that tracks charts and tracks the stages of the moon. So the theme of their work this year is how oceans affect desert. And before I share this poem, I'll just add that another reason that I can't think of a better place to launch Sam's book than here in Wave Archive is that the underlying and overwhelming pull of the book, like this place, which aims to be a place of projection and sharing for voices and ideas across multiple themes and discourses and genres, is across apparent divides in space and time and ways of being. There's a pointing to deeper layers of connection and relation. So for me, what comes to be most felt in the work, in Sam's work, is that there can be no starting to say again, but instead only one continuous shared effort of saying. So here's Surf One. There must have been a beginning, an idea first, a bright smudge. Layer after layer, each one pressed without distance against the next until just this single crested wave drawn flat against a smear of colored sky. It is the perfect realism. There is nothing that comes next. The idea, the first smudge, forget that. There is no movement, no transparency, no sequence, no progression. Even the spray of light and air is opaque, is pressed in layers, even the streak of purple sky. All is here. All is perfectly still. Nothing breaks. So now I'll invite Olive up to read her poem.
I was born in the desert where the wash runs dry, with the sound of the birds and the bees in the sky. When I was born, Sam was somewhere else. He was where the wind blows and the boats rock, and the gulls call and the seals swim. The desert and ocean aren't that far, you know. They're connected by an invisible link of sun, sand, frost, and snow.
Not done yet.
Samuel Ace is a trans genderqueer writer and sound artist, author most recently of I Want to Start by Saying from Cleveland State University Poetry Center. He's also the author of Our Weather, Our Sea from Black Radish, Meet Me There, Normal Sex and Home in 3 Days, Don't Wash from Belladonna, and along with poet Maureen Seaton, Maureen Seaton, the author of Stealth, published by Chax Press. He's also the author of numerous chapbooks and the recipient of numerous awards, including the Australia Lesbian Writer Award and the Firecracker Alternative Book Award in Poetry. A repeat finalist for both the Lambda Literary Award and the National Poetry Series, Sam's work has been included in many significant, groundbreaking anthologies, such as Personal Best, Makers on Their Poems That Matter Most, Essential Queer Voices of U.S. Poetry, We Want It All, an anthology of radical trans poetry, and Best American Experimental Poetry. Forthcoming from Ravenna Press in 2025 is Portals, a book co-authored with the late poet Maureen Seaton. So we have that to look forward to this year, but in the much nearer future, we have Sam reading for us here tonight. So we're so lucky to have him and the rest of our readers. Thank you all so much for being here. And you're going to be...
Hi, thank you, Johanna, and Olive, and John, and Chax, and POG, and Aria, and TC, and everyone here. It feels like, let's just make this our living room and stay for a while. It feels like a reunion. I'm so grateful to be here and be in this space. So. We're going to have kind of a conversation. Instead of me just reading and then the next person and the next person, I'm going to read a short excerpt from this book, my new book, and then Aria is going to read, and then I'll come up and read another short excerpt, and then TC, and then I'll complete the night, and then we can all have cake and just enjoy each other. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay, good. All right. I want to start by saying, I'm just going to start with the beginning of the book. I want to start by saying I hear the filter in the turtle tank like a fountain. I want to start by saying like a fountain in the middle of a field of wildflowers. I want to start by saying that today would have been my father's 84th birthday, that he died 18 days before his 79th. I want to start by saying that he was young and that death took him by surprise. I want to start by saying that my mother died 9 months ago, less than 4.5 years after my father. I want to start by saying the beginning of this sentence. I want to start by saying that a child could have been born in that time. I want to start by saying that a whole year has gone by since my godchild's birth. I want to start by saying on Canada Day. I want to start by saying the fireworks on the porch of a former riverboat inn at Hatfield Point. I want to start by saying the fireworks mark the day. I want to start by saying I celebrate my godchild, not the nation. I want to start by saying my godchild now says bird and boat. I want to start by saying that both my sisters have children who are mostly grown. I want to start by saying I do not know them, the children. I want to start by saying I knew them up until my niece was 9 and my nephew was 7. I want to start by saying when my nephew was 2, he discovered a raccoon while looking out the window of the house in Austerlitz. He pointed and said, "Coo, coo," long before we could identify what he was seeing. I want to start by saying it began to rain last night. It's now past noon the next day and still raining, soft and constant, hidden under the sound of the water filter. I want to start by saying that it's difficult to come to the page. I want to start by saying that I can no longer find my father's last voice message. I want to start by saying that today I read about a German soldier who destroyed a small French town toward the end of World War II. I want to start by saying that the soldier tortured and killed nearly every person living in that town. I want to start by saying that 75 years later, he is just now being tried for murder. I want to start by saying I want to call my father. I want to start by saying his voice might still be alive on an old cell phone buried in a box somewhere in my closet. I want to start by saying an archive. I want to start by saying how to retrieve the past. I want to start by saying there are so many versions. I want to start by saying that my closet is filled with intentions. I feel them every morning when I take out my clothes, get dressed, and close the door. I want to start by saying that the intentions are always waiting. I want to start by saying that last night 9 people were murdered at an AME church in Charleston. I want to start by saying that yesterday, U.S. soldiers in Nevada operating drones over Afghanistan murdered a family of 5. I want to start by saying that my father would have cried watching Obama sing Amazing Grace. I want to start by saying that I cried, but what are tears? I want to start by saying that I cry whenever I see a baby being born. I want to start by saying that on TV or in a movie, I want to start by saying it feels like a deep and shredding grief. I want to start by saying on TV, I want to start by saying, will I ever witness a baby being born? I want to start by saying, I want to hear my father's voice. I want to start by saying that I think through my fingers, my shoulders, my eyes when they are closed. I want to start by saying it's the movement of my hands on a keyboard that I love, not the residue or the aftermath. I want to start by saying not even the words. I want to start by saying that somewhere I have just passed 730 words. Auspicious because 7 plus 3 plus 0 equals 10 equals 1, which is a lucky number. I want to start by saying that somewhere I have passed 3,561 characters. Auspicious because 3 plus 5 plus 6 plus 1 equals 15 equals 6, which is also a lucky number. I have checked. I want to start by saying that when I pump gas or consider an address as a place to live, I want the total to equal 1, 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, or 12. I want to start by saying that I constantly add numbers inside my head. I want to start by asking if I should delete the first 6 words. They are probably unnecessary. I want to start by saying that I'd like to hold on to them for a while. They are lucky. I want to start by saying that I am in love with someone who has a chronic illness. I want to start by saying that I research fecal transplants, pituitary gland tumors, Lyme disease, ME, CFS, antibiotics, immune boosters, immunosuppressants, antifungal agents, magnetic therapies, hormone deficiencies, gluten-free carbohydrates, ashwagandha, stevia, and Japanese knotweed. I want to start by saying that this morning I advised my love to swallow his spit in order to strengthen his immune system. I want to start by saying I need to stop giving advice. I want to start by saying that I am not living in my home. I want to start by saying that I have possessions in a small apartment in Tucson, Arizona. Also in a 5x5 indoor storage facility, also in Tucson. Also in my ex-wife's garage. Also piled inside a 9,000 square foot warehouse in Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. I also have a small shelf of books, some files, an AeroPress coffee maker, 2 stainless steel salad servers, a stainless steel ladle, a nearly 6-foot drawing I drew and gave to my parents for their anniversary almost 40 years ago, and a large gouache painted by my mother with vertical blue and black brushstrokes that seen together look something like a dancing woman. I want to start by saying that several drawers of clothes are in Florence, Massachusetts, where I am now. The gouache and the drawing are all I have from my mother's last apartment. I want to start by saying, what is home? Stop there. So next, Aria Pahari is going to read for us. I want to say Aria Pahari was one of my first students when I was teaching at Mount Holyoke College, and subsequently, with their amazing writing, came here to graduate school and stayed. And every time I see Aria, you're like home. So, welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sam, for inviting me to read with you to celebrate your incredible book. And yeah, just to piggyback off of what Sam was saying, I met Sam at the only creative writing class I ended up taking in undergrad, and we crossed paths at the perfect time because it was my last semester as a student there and Sam's first semester teaching there. And the poetry that Sam taught us in his creative writing class was the first time I had ever read living queer poets of color in a classroom setting. So I'm just so grateful that fate intersected that way. And yeah, I'll never forget the safety and the freedom I felt in his class. So in honor of Sam, I thought I would read a couple of pieces that actually kind of germinated in his class. And these are pieces that I'm incorporating into a young adult fiction project. And yeah, the reason why Sam's class is so impactful in this is because I was an avid reader of young adult fiction growing up, but it wasn't until Sam's class that I actually dabbled in writing it, because he gave us this brilliant prompt, which was, simply to write using a younger voice, a voice, maybe 5 to 10 years younger than your current age. And that was just really generative for me. So yeah, congratulations again, Sam, and thank you, and TC. I feel so honored to be here. So the first 2 pieces I will read are pieces that are in the YA project. Popcorn Tree. I look out the window from a hallway in Apa Amu's room. From here, I can see the tree in the front yard. It has 3 thick branches that spread out to look like when someone says 3, but with fingers instead of words. I like to sit at the spot where the tree branches meet at the short trunk. Apa Amu liked to tell me that the tree made a seat just for me. Today the tree looks different. The entire top of it fluffs out and bounces when the wind blows by. Some of the fluffs fall down onto the grass. I stare out the window for a little longer. Popcorn. We have a popcorn tree in our yard, just like in a magic book. I leap down and down the stairs. The plastic on the storm door slams and shakes. I keep running. My one foot touches the cold grass and the other brushes the pavement. I climb onto my seat on the tree and stand up for a closer look. Twigs pull at my botosurual while the sun warms my skin through the cloth. My mouth tingles, ready to eat the popcorn that tumbles from the branch. I use my tiptoes to look high enough until all I see is popcorn. I pick a buttery bunch and pull. Petals float down onto my hair. They are white and pink like a strawberry deep inside. I look around. The flowers are on every fat and skinny branch on the short tree. None of them are yellow, toasted, and shiny with butter. There's no magic here. I was wrong. This one's called Niparties. Asha and I call them Niparties, those Nepali gatherings at some uncle or auntie's house, with an explosion of shoes at the door and a bunch of uncles and aunties asking, "Do you remember me? I met you when you were just a baby." And having to be all awkward because you don't remember. And it's like, how could I remember? I was probably pooping in diapers. And the food gets served so late. You always make the rookie mistake of going hard on the appetizers, thinking it's the main meal. Niparties are chaotic, but they're ours. A reminder that we have each other in this homeland away from home. These last two I'm going to read are not a part of the young adult fiction project, but I feel like working on young adult writing, I've noticed how that mode has influenced my writing in general, and I try to remain like open and receptive to that. This one's called Etching. Etching. I have collected circumstantial evidence I name and wield against myself. Sheila and I searched the trinket shop for an etching that could only describe us and the remnants of that day, spoon-fed with tiger lilies. I walk home with my heart on my feet. I held the block of wood we carved, my grip tight and sweaty, the wood smooth and cool, immune to my urgency. I turn back at her to say goodbye, and in disbelief recall how preemptively I broke my own heart. Oh, circumstance, please guard me, my faith so oddly shaped. This last one is called My Girlhood is Not White. My girlhood is not white, neither would my motherhood be. My body dares me to refuse it. I do. A fire in my lower abdomen hisses, frayed with ash. A phoenix nest. Poet, photographed alone, her architecture of sound houses me somewhere potent and brief, like my girlhood is not white. I heard it, a soft tumble of stones, revelation, folk song, friend, close to sea, wind in our coats. I muffle, I hide, promise to care for it. Perception keeps catching me in its slant. I summon a surround, I fear forever, sink lotus roots deep. Only I knew it was there. My girlhood is not white, but a seafloor whose silence finally gets to speak into the dotted gap that fits everything and holds nothing, winnowing down, not sure where the no, so simple, yet the heaviest accessory a woman can bear. My girlhood is not white. She keeps escaping into the lives of grandmothers, chasing their stories, not writing them down. Her voice ends, and I miss her. Thank you.
Thank you, Aria. Wow, beautiful. How's everyone doing? Good. I'm going to pick up about 40 pages into the book. As you can tell, there's a lot of threads and a lot of locations in this book. So we'll just keep going. I want to start by saying that I write the beginning of the sentence in order to write the sentence. I want to start by saying that this sentence is a subject. I want to start by saying that sometimes I need words to be in the way. I want to start by saying that I have taken out the beginning, but I am back at the beginning. I want to start by saying that I want to write away from my family. I want to start by saying I keep writing about family. I want to start by saying that the past is a rupture, no matter what I do. I want to start by saying that indignity is such a dignified word. Demean feels closer to what happened. I want to start by saying that I am suspicious of storytelling. I want to start by saying that I am suspicious of self-pity. I want to start by saying that I too am culpable. I want to start by saying that I looked at my skin today and saw my age. I want to start by saying my hairline has receded to the back of my head, my beard and the hair around my ears almost completely white. I want to start by saying that I often do not believe I am getting older. I want to start by saying that I am taking a walk. I want to start by saying that I cannot identify which birds are singing this morning. I wonder, is that a robin, a rose-breasted grosbeak, or a purple finch? I want to start by saying that I am back to being bound up in love. I want to start by saying I am avoiding the subject. I want to start by saying that this morning I had to get up and walk downstairs in order to hear myself. I want to start by saying family. I want to start by saying pause. I want to start by saying my mother's death. I want to start by saying that I sat quietly in a waiting room at the hospital where my father was dying. My mother and my two sisters sat in a different waiting room down the hall. They forbade me to join them. I want to start by saying that I stared at the green flecked vinyl on the floor. It reminded me of the vinyl floor in my childhood dentist's office. I want to start by saying that I sat next to my father's brother. He looked bloated and exhausted. He's closer in age to me than he was to my father. I want to start by saying he told me he needed a scotch. I want to start by saying that my father's father bullied his sons. I want to start by saying I remember my grandfather saying, "You are going to be a looker." I want to start by saying when I was 4. I want to start by saying, "You look so sexy." I want to start by saying when I was 6. I want to start by saying that my father's sister died in the 40s from a reaction to sulfa drugs. But maybe it was something else. I want to start by saying that's the story. It was a handwritten number that began with the letters Y-E. I want to start by saying as if my father or his brother had never left. I want to start by saying I found 2 volumes by Zane Grey on the shelves, nothing else. I want to start by saying that my grandmother and I sat in the den watching TV. She lay on the couch while I sat across from her in my grandfather's brown and plaid recliner. I want to start by saying that my grandmother wore a nightgown and a soft pink robe. I want to start by saying that she asked me about my book. I want to start by saying my family would not speak to me because of it. I want to start by saying as if what I wrote was the truth. I want to start by saying, was it the truth? I want to start by saying that my grandmother said there were things she would only ever tell her psychiatrist. I want to start by saying what were those things. I want to start by saying her father was a salesman, and when she was young, he would bring her with him on business trips. I want to start by saying he would often visit his clients in local bars. I want to start by saying my grandmother's eyes looked up at the ceiling as she talked. I want to start by saying she told me her father would pick her up and put her on top of the tall bar counters where he would drink and show her off to his clients. I want to start by saying that her story stopped there. I want to start by saying I don't know what my great-grandfather was selling. I don't remember if my grandmother told me or not. I want to start by saying that my grandfather was dead 2 years by the time we had this conversation. I want to start by saying the shuffleboard painted on my grandparents' basement floor. I want to start by saying the rubber shrunken head souvenirs in the storage closet, the black and white snapshots of horses and cacti from a Tucson vacation. I want to start by saying I wanted to save my grandmother. I wanted to start by saying her paintings of rabbis and clowns also in the basement. I want to start by saying her yellow kitchen with one wall covered in a pattern of horse and buggy silhouettes. I want to start by saying I close my eyes and dream I am hiding something. I want to start by saying I wake up. I want to start by saying I am baffled that I'm living and traveling like a student. I want to start by saying that even so, I'm afraid of losing everything. I want to start by saying it's hot in this room. I want to start by saying I can't fall back to sleep. I want to start by saying that I've been out of the house twice today. I want to start by saying that now I am sitting with a friend over coffee. She mourns the loss of friends because she's in love with someone who is trans. I want to start by saying the familiarity of so many stories. I want to start by saying that I mourn the rise of rivers, the smell of creosote, the relief of summer monsoons. Hey y'all. Say hi. Before I gush about Sam and probably cry, I want to just let you know that there's a stack of books back there that you should take. You should take one. Because there's so many amazing books of poetry in the world, and I only have so much time to read them once. So, please, help me. Because they're amazing books, and I want them read multiple times. You've caught me at an especially tender moment. My grandmother, Nana, died yesterday, and she was 15 when she had my mom, and my mom was 19 when she had me, so my grandmother was a grandmother at 35. And so I got to know her for 50 years. And she was a real pain in my ass around trans stuff. And this loops back to Sam, because when I met Sam in 2007, I was pimply at the very beginning of my testosterone journey. And Sam's example of tender masculinity, of vulnerability, of generosity, and your own ways of being a pain in the ass. But that's part of it. Like, that's just part of being a human. And then we come back, and we come back, just like I want to start by saying, let me start over. And loving you and being loved by you for almost 20 years is such a gift. It is one of the greatest gifts of my life, and has taught me how to be who I am. So thank you. Like Johanna said, if you had some time with Sam, you know, you're lucky.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the spirit of being a pain in the ass, I'm going to read 2 poems about my grandmother, Nana. It's wild that you just read that section about your grandparents. And I was like, oh, yeah, here we go. Nana, one of the last things she said that I think she was coherent for was about a year ago. It's been a process. But I was there visiting her, and my mom was like, do you know who this is? And my mom was like, it's TC.
And then I'll goes, yeah, that's my Missy Mo, which is what she calls me. It's my birthday. Anyway, that's my Missy Mo. She's such a sweet boy. So, that's pretty awesome. I'll take it. So writing to Melissa in this book, who is also Missy Mo. Dear Melissa, physicists say we change an object simply by turning our attention to it, as if it were possible to address passing. I too am afraid of who we become when we see. I am a grandson only when we are eating at Panera. One of us is lying always about her particular hunger. I love the children outside of me counting to 30 while covering their eyes. Which of our bodies has made me an ancestor, a sacrifice to be in the company of another? Each day across my ongoing, I haul the husk of her. Fire towers are designed for distance viewing, and I am right here, othering you into the next life. Call me cover when you don't know who I could be. Time's psychological and legal assault. No one is listening to ice become water, burying you to keep us alive. And it is true, only at Panera was I the grandson. This is what you are missing, Melissa. Dust turned to waves in the desert. Okra coming up 2 months too late. A forward-breaking gate opening into someone else's field. I walk by a window and I don't understand how little I see you, but so clearly the wasp backing out of a hole inside a long dead tree. When we were children, we lived with our grandparents, and I remember, without sadness mostly, the sound of tires screaming into the street. The porch light welcomes whatever intercepts it. I praise insistence. I kiss my love because our best friend died when we were 5 years old, a brain tumor. And then again at 7, 11, 17, and 43. Bodies killing themselves by growing beyond their own capacity. I'm building a bed for our visitors. It's infuriating how little I understand about rejoining wood already broken piece by piece. Anticipate everything I hear God saying to no one. I'm still listening when you stop for a moment, breathing in your sleep. I'm recognizable now as a part of the man who made me. Every man is suspect. Inside my own mouth, I'm annoyed by who I cannot seem to be. Do you miss this, Melissa? Every part of our body is ash, aching to be reminded it is ash. Unlike fire reaching through the face of every forest in order to be incited by wind or offered some relief. I've learned to flinch by standing absolutely still. It isn't death exactly, living without you. The purpose of a rope is to borrow someone else's strength. That's why I'm calling you. When I pray, I hear nothing so clearly as our new voice, singe-scoured and full of disbelief. I love you, Sam.
See if I can get through this without, well, I've already been crying, so thank you, TC. Thanks again, Aria. I have to take a picture of you all. Actually, this is a TC move. Right? Yeah, I mean, TC always does this, but I just want to be able to take you all home with me to Atlanta. I don't know if I can get all of you in here, but I can't quite. I have to do this side. There you are.
No, we're just gonna hop in.
And then this side. There you are. There, all of you. Yay. There.
I want to make sure you can see them.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. All right. So much history here. You do get older, but I feel like even though I sometimes don't quite believe it, but it feels like my heart gets bigger and bigger with the people in my life. I just wish all the time that everyone was in the same space, the same place, and and I also know we're going into some frightening times, as if we haven't been in them, but just know that you are in my heart going forward, and I hope we all stay close and support all the support we need and can give each other over the next several years. I want to start by saying the deep orange skies of the monsoon. I want to start by saying we have returned to Tucson. I want to start by saying that while our friends are away, we are taking care of their little house, their dark rooms and heavy wood benches. I want to start by saying I fall asleep in my love's arms. I want to start by saying I think about waking up alone. I wonder if that might be the future. I want to start by saying the yellow butterfly bush, the light magenta bougainvillea, the deep red flowers on the barrel cactus. I want to start by saying the smell of creosote. I want to start by saying that at first our arrival felt dusty. I want to start by saying the desire to buy a house on the second day. I want to start by saying that my friend S told me my boyfriend looked like Jesus. I want to start by saying I found a Jesus on a prayer card at the mission. I want to start by saying that the Jesus on the prayer card was white and very thin with long blonde hair and a blonde beard. I want to start by saying that my love does resemble the prayer card. I want to start by saying, yay, Jesus. I want to start by saying that at the mission I also found an 8.5 by 11 inch holographic portrait of Jesus and Mary. I want to start by saying that tilting the card one way shows Jesus. I want to start by saying that tilting the card the other way shows Mary. I want to start by saying that holding the card steady in the middle shows Jesus and Mary merged together. I want to start by saying trans Jesus, trans Mary. I want to start by saying that instead of meeting me for coffee, my younger sister tells me she will send me a second payment for my mother's estate. I want to start by saying 20%. I want to start by saying that my sisters each received 40%. I want to start by saying, how did they decide? I want to start by saying that I had not even seen the terms of probate. I want to start by saying that my father died 5 years ago last month, and I never saw my father's will. I want to start by saying that when I asked, my sister's lawyer sent me a will from 1997 in which I was disowned. I want to start by saying that the year before my father died, he called to ask for my current address and social security number as he was rewriting his will. I want to start by saying that the new will mysteriously disappeared. I want to start by saying that my father and I talked on the phone every week or every other week. I want to start by saying for hours. I want to start by saying my father kept secrets. I want to start by saying that the 2,700 miles between us was often a convenience of distance. I want to start by saying that our conversations were intimate, also a convenience of distance. I want to start by saying that while my father was dying, his brother told me he thought it was my choice to never again see or speak to my parents or my sisters. I want to start by saying he thought I had chosen to disappear. I want to start by saying my parents led him to believe that story. I want to start by saying there were no pictures of me in my parents' apartment. I want to start by saying that I accepted the conditions of my father's love. I want to start by saying I was frightened to upset the balance of our connection. I want to start by saying that what he shared with me in private seemed more real than how he lived. I want to start by saying more real to both of us. I want to start by saying that his fear of my mother's fury was just as real. I want to start by saying I am more like him than I often care to admit. I want to start by saying that yesterday we drove from Chicago to Cleveland. I want to start by saying that yesterday was my parents' anniversary. I want to start by saying that we are staying at Julie Patton's, high up in the trees with Janice Lowe and RJ, Paul, and Noj. Does everybody know who Julie Patton is? Julie Patton is a wonderful poet, performer, lives in Cleveland mostly now, grew up in Cleveland, so she's part of this book. I want to start by saying that Julie's house is many houses, a tall brick building that once held several apartments. I want to start by saying that Julie and I both grew up in Cleveland. I want to start by saying that last night we all read to each other or sang. I want to start by saying that we woke up to sirens racing down East Boulevard. I want to start by saying Rockefeller Park and Glenville. I want to start by saying the lake, a far ocean. I want to start by saying that Cleveland smells like home, like rust and dirt and fallen leaves. I want to start by saying that Julie and I did not meet until we both lived in New York. I want to start by saying that Julie's mother was a painter, so was my mother. I want to start by saying that my mother's art did not know Julie's mother's art. I want to start by saying, who is a mother? I want to start by saying the large rooms of the apartment building on East Boulevard. I want to start by saying the fields outside Julie's window, the gardens and the farms. I want to start by saying deep summer, art filling every room. I want to start by saying Virgie, Estelle, Patton, Julie's mother. I want to start by saying the building ghosts then and now. I want to start by saying the cars and the sirens. I want to start by saying the boiler. I want to start by saying Virgie and her paintings. I want to start by saying I did not know her. I want to start by saying my mother's aspirations. I want to start by saying she took us to museums, art, and natural history. I want to start by saying a yearly subscription to Severance Hall and the Symphony. I want to start by saying the Cleveland Institute of Art just down the street from the Cleveland Institute of Music, all the institutes. I want to start by saying theory lessons beginning at 4 years old. I want to start by saying, did they know each other, my mother and Virgie? I want to start by saying, I know so little. I want to start by saying my great-grandparents were Jews from Minsk, or was it Vilna? I want to start by saying the boats they came on. I want to start by saying, I'm not sure. What is my memory? I want to start by saying a woman in a sheer white nightgown, my father's grandmother floating through dark rooms, diaphanous curtains, possibly one of those apartments. I want to start by saying, what am I trying to say? I want to start by saying that my mother bought whole shelves of large coffee table art books. I want to start by saying I long to know her. I want to start by saying she too was a child of Eastern European immigrants, first generation American. I want to start by saying she tried to give us something she did not have. I want to start by saying she made my father throw away his jazz collection. I want to start by saying an assumption of culture, white, European, classical music, and the bones of indigenous people in the museum. I want to start by saying that the thought of running out of money terrified her. I want to start by saying that even so, we moved often into bigger and bigger houses. I want to start by saying Am I still a child wandering through those rooms? I want to start by saying, but at whose house? Julie's or my mother's? I want to start by saying that sometimes I want to go back, to see but not stay. I want to start by saying a bronze sculpture on a tall white pedestal, my mother's. I want to start by saying the orange and red bodies of Virgie's women warm on the walls. I want to start by saying the blank faces of museum curators. I want to start by saying who gets to choose, who chooses. I want to start by saying that outside Julie's house we walk through fields. I want to start by saying how green and how wild. I want to start by saying the wind. I want to start by saying who am I in this? I want to start by saying a daughter or a son. I want to start by saying my mother wanted to be noticed. I want to start by saying who was passed over by whom. I want to start by saying the art I saw. I want to start by saying who made the art I did not see. I want to start by saying my home and the mess of it. I want to start by saying that in all her houses my mother wanted to protect the polished wood floors. I want to start by saying there was always paint on my clothes and on the floor of my room. I want to start by saying I could not contain myself. I want to start by saying I was watched. I want to start by saying there was always someone to clean up, to put things back in order. I want to start by saying I can still hear my mother shouting, "Do you ever learn?" I want to start by saying the white walls of a gallery. I want to start by saying, what is the aspiration of white walls? Whose? I want to start by saying my mother could make a beautiful room. I want to start by saying that we went to the same museums, Julie and I. I want to start by saying, where do paintings get made? For that matter, words. I want to start by saying Virgie and my mother shared at least one institute. I want to start by saying, what did it mean to each of them? I want to start by saying, where am I now? I want to start by saying I need to make a phone call. I want to start by saying the smell of leaves. I want to start by saying what fits on the velvet green walls of the museum. I want to start by saying preserved. I want to start by saying whose legacy. I want to start by saying the bones of someone's mother in the Natural History Museum on University Circle. I want to start by saying my mother scraped the layers of paint off all the woodwork every time she moved. I want to start by saying that after her death, most of my mother's paintings were stored and hidden away. I want to start by saying who gets seen. I want to start by saying that when she applied to art school, my mother had 3 young children. She was told by admissions they didn't want housewives. I want to start by saying, did they take classes together? 2 women, 1 black, 1 white. I want to start by saying the men in the corridors with paint on their pants. I want to start by saying they were allowed. I want to start by saying the smell of turpentine. I want to start by saying the residue. I want to start by saying whose models, whose version of art history. I want to start by saying I aspire to mess. I want to start by saying that today the mess is in this bed. I want to start by saying I'm trying to write it all down. I want to start by saying, will I ever leave my mother's aspirations behind? I want to start by saying, leave the dust. I want to start by saying, what is left of that building, the Art Institute? I want to start by saying the circular hand washing stations, the photo labs, the dark hallways now under a grassy field. I want to start by saying, where do we hang the mother's paintings? I want to start by saying, who taught us about beauty? I want to start by saying, I smell rust. I want to start by saying, I smell Cleveland. I want to start by saying Julie's rooms on East Boulevard. I want to start by saying just down the road, half-draped models lay surrounded by easels, window lit. I want to start by saying all the rooms and what they held. I want to start by saying the buildings stand still there and not in silhouette against the dark earth, the lake and the dirt. I want to start by saying thank you. Thank you.